So, all right. So first things first, this is the map SS Comet Catcher Prime. So right now what you have is what I have done already. I have defined the spots properly, has designed it. Not sure if it's visible. It's probably not visible, but there are some spots which are richer. Ones with those small dots there. Wait, I think I'm not sharing my screen.
I'm
Sorry.
looking at you, not the screen.
Yeah, I keep doing that shit. I don't know why.
I should be able to go into where would that be under? That'd be
You
under the
should see
maps.
now.
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Okay, so I'm just on single player watching my under development map. There are a couple of things to do. I've just fixed the normal map issue I was having. Normal map is a mess to get to work in Spring. So yeah, I'll show you all you have to do. Many steps. That's why I'm saving this so you can have a recollection later. So
Thank you.
what's too wrong and the starting points, for the non-box start mode, because those are defined for the horizontal layout. Basically what I did was I've unpacked or reverted to the original files from the map, the Comet Catcher remake.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look here, those are the points. So they are defined separately. So I did a number of steps. I just want to show you like backwards because I think the process is very convoluted, very complicated. And if you don't get something running right away and you learn how to iterate on that, you just quit because it's just so freaking annoying. The first time took me like a week to figure out most of the stuff. The wiki docs are terrible. Parts of it I did right. So okay, let's get to it. So basically on this My Games Spring Maps folder, if you don't have it, create one.
Let me go and check. Okay, I've got it. Got a few maps in there.
So I don't know which one are you looking at. This one I got is Comet Catcher Remake. For it to show here, you probably have to download it from Spring Files.
I've got Comet Catcher Redux something
Yeah.
or other. So yeah, let's go to Spring Files.
Yeah, just write Spring Files Comet Catcher Remake, takes you there. There you go. So just click download. You got this guy here. Download it to your computer. This is probably a slightly different version from the one I added. He changed the name.
I'm trying to use the search function on Spring Files and it's just
The search function Spring Files is useless.
Can you just copy paste into Discord for me? Make my life a little easier.
Next time you just do like this, Google Spring
Oh,
Files,
gotcha.
the name of the map. It's very easy. It works all the time. But
Brilliant.
Here. Yeah. People refusing or refraining to integrate Google search in their websites are just stupid. Like how it's so easy to integrate. Just add a tag and say, oh, I want Google to search just inside my website. And it works. Why the hell would you try to implement something broken or hard to support?
Well, it's like the website was made in what?
Yeah, that's true.
2000
It's
something.
really old. You're right. So yeah, just click on download. Yeah, the file.
Wait, There we go.
Okay, so what happens is everything in Spring, which ends in SD7, is basically solid data zipped using 7-zip. If you see something like SDZ, that means solid data zipped by WinZip. It's just a regular zip file. In this case, you just right click. If you have 7-zip style, you should have it. Just extract to folder, like so.
Let me double check. I think I used to use 7, but I think I only have RAR right now. WinRAR.
Maybe WinHard does it. I'm not sure. This
Me.
Win7 format is very specific. 7-zip format. It's
I'm
not
gonna
even
go
bad.
download 7-zip then.
Yeah, you must have it to play with Spring without 7-zip is basically impossible. You can't do.
I can't remember if it was my last build that had it.
Wave, it's a senha. E aí, Du? Ah, sai daí. She said she got a shock from something. I don't know what. That's why her hair is waving like that. Lies. Okay, so did you get it?
I'm doing it right now.
Today is a weirdly hot day here because we're about to enter winter, so weather just gets crazy. So late at night we get lots of haze, like you can see 1 meter away, and then 11 a.m. it's ridiculous hot. I don't know what's going on. Weather is pretty crazy.
Okay, so I got the exe there. Now I need to go back to maps and see if I can interact with it. 7-zip. And then I can, oh, yeah,
After
extract
install, you
everything.
can just right click and go 7-zip and extract to the same folder name.
Add to, okay, there we go. Awesome.
So you got something like this, right? You probably have like CCRX because he's renamed the folder.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you get in here, the main trick and the number one reason why people just fail getting a map running in Spring, it's because if you get here and you zip like so, this is not going to work. And you're probably asking, what the fuck? It's the same thing. I've just unzipped it. And if I right click to 0.7z and rename the extension here to SD7, shouldn't it work? Well, it should, but for whatever reason, the logic of expanding the files from Spring is fucked up to the point that it doesn't look into folders. So you literally have to get into the folder and then you zip it, everything in here, and then you're good. So
Oh, okay, yeah.
you know what I mean?
I think I've actually run into a shitty Russian engine that required that before, but go on.
Well, you basically described Spring, didn't you? Just kidding.
Yeah, pretty
Actually, it
much.
is a good low-level engine with a terrible mid-level layer. So it's very Russian to me. So yeah, so if you zip it from here and then you rename the ending to SDZ and then you move it over here, it's gonna work. And that's valid for mods, games, maps, objects, whatever. Everything's like this. If you forget and just zip it from here, you're dead in the water. Okay, so that out of the way, now you know how to repack a map. So inside here, you're most certainly not seeing some files I get here. Why? Because I just gathered them from another map and I just moved over here, just copy them. You need them to do things like decompile the existing map into the original textures. So I'll tell you what I mean.
Okay.
So inside, I think I do it over. Let me show you understand
Okay.
how the process works. Back, just do this as a back, and commit catcher remake 7-zip. So for this guy to show up here, you need to get rid of the SDZ extension, or else
Mm-hmm.
SpringLab is going to detect it as a valid map. So I usually just rename it as a back or something. And then this guy, you have to name it like SDD. Whatever is not compressed should end in SDD. Okay, solid data, I guess. It's just data. So if you do like this, and this is just the raw files, and you get to Spring, and you do a reload maps games, this one here is actually the one with the expanded files. Okay, which means we can start playing with start positions and whatever, and just refresh is going to refresh over here. Okay.
Okay.
So um, the main files of the map are within the maps folder. Just get in here. Here's where the main files are. The thing is, you're seeing like the mini map, a couple of normal textures, which is just the tail textures, a specular map, which basically, the higher the reflectance, the more it shines in game.
Mm-hmm.
So he just did that for the metal spots. He baked those. Um, this guy is just, it's kind of hard to describe it. Basically, every channel allows you to add detailing textures. So you have red for one texture, green for another, blue for another, and even alpha if you want. So up to 4 textures can be used as a tail. I think he's using 3 or 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. This is just the normal, so it's not related to the detailing. But the main ones are SMF and SMT. You can see SMT file is the bigger one. SMF file is smaller. I don't totally remember what this guy does, but this guy is basically where the textures are compressed into. But if you want to edit the main diffuse texture, you have to expand this into a regular image map. And that's what those two guys do. I can just send them to you. Bring mapconv ng. You need a bat, a batch file for that. I added here to, where's that? Make point bat. Show you this guy. It's just a command line, which theoretically was used to generate this file, but I noticed he didn't use these XP specific settings.
Mm-hmm.
He made it, this is just for tasks like quick baking. Later he changed those values to more effective ones. So I think I just copy the one I'm using right now. It's here. Where's the batch file? Seems I took it off. Where did I put that?
Did you cut it
Oh,
instead of
no,
copy?
the source. There's a source folder which I couldn't zip. All right, I moved it elsewhere to my Google Drive, I think. Yeah, here are the source files. So here I have the everything pretty much, but what I want is this guy. Okay, so I put it here. No, here. just zip them all and send to you. Just have to take these two.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're available on Spring File, but they're not very comprehensive. So I just made a batch to make it easier to use. All right. Okay, so what I do is I paste those files within maps. I just create a source folder here. While you're testing, it's no problem. You just have to move it off after you zip it, or else it's gonna make the file size huge. I just put them here. And I use this guy on these two files.
Wait, which guy? Sorry.
So you see within maps,
Yeah.
the SMF and the SMT files, just copy them. I just created a folder so it doesn't make
Okay.
a mess here, or else it's gonna be a big mess. First time I tried, I did that and it pained me, hurt me a lot after that to clean it up. Okay, so what we do now is we'll open a command prompt here. Um, you can just, there's an open terminal here somewhere, but I don't know if I have it installed. I don't think I do. So I just copy this path, CMD. Just gonna open the big, nice, black and white terminal. And then you can,
Everyone's friend.
everyone's friend. Then you can just CD and Control V, there you are. And what I do is I run the, oh wait, I didn't go to source. Let me go to source. I'm in the right folder. So what I'm gonna do is the SMF decompiler. I'm gonna decompile the SMF file, you see?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a bat for that because it's pretty easy to use. What I do is just SMF decompiler, and it's gonna give me the help. So it's just SMF decompiler minus directory, which is this one, directory where SMT files are. So you can just use a point, minus map file. It's the name of the SMF file. It's not a path. So you just put the SMF file, this smaller one here, like so. See? And that's all there's to it, actually. It's gonna load features, whatnot. It takes, this step takes a little bit of time, but you can see in the previews here on the source folder that it's already generating the needed textures. So all those PNGs here are generated from those SMF and SMT files. Basically, they compress it using similarity across tiles, so you can bring a 70 meg file down to 32 megabytes. So it looks for, patches, similarity, graphical similarity. in a map like this, which is mostly gray, and it's very easy for you to find similar tiles or grass tiles, where blocks are so similar. That's what it does. So after decompiling them, you got the minimap. Bear in mind that the minimap is always 1K by 1K, always. Uh, so if your map is horizontal or vertical, it doesn't matter. In
Mm-hmm.
our case, all we had to do here is rotate it sideways. Um, on texture, well, that's the big one, as you saw, 70 megabytes. And the resolution is pretty high. This is what's shown in game. There's the math for that, like for how many units of the map, like an 8 by 12 map is equivalent to, I don't remember, but I had something like 4K by 12K. So those image files are pretty big. This one you have no way around. You need it to be maximum resolution because everything in the compilation process is based off of this texture. This is one
Okay.
of the main tricks. So this has to be right. If the size here is not right, the compiler won't work. You can't generate back your files. Okay. Height map. It also needs a specific map size. It's much lower resolution than the texture file. Like, I don't remember, like 8 times less. And that's why the actual map definition is not very good. You can increase density, but it's not super, it's not a lot. Like, it just interpolates from this image, basically. You know,
Okay.
the metal map, that's where we define our resources. The resolution is very low here. It's blurring, but it's actual like pixel art. So ideally, you don't need to use uh, anti-aliasing or anything like that, and you shouldn't. Every time I tried, it just made things worse. So just use solid pixels, and the trick is 255 is equivalent to the maximum metal that you define on your map settings, which I'll show you
Okay.
in a bit. Anything below that, it's proportional, but the math is kind of weird. So sometimes I just have to get in game and give it a run and okay, let's see, and just grab a metal extractor, try to put on top of one of those and see how much metal it gives you off, and then okay, this is a rich metal spot. Then I go there and just play test it because it's kind of random. But yeah, I
Wouldn't we be
use
able to come up with just like two or three numbers and then use them for everything in our future design?
usually I try to do that. Um, Obviously, for this map was a bit a bit harder because I was trying to emulate as much as possible the original gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
But so my first design had poor, medium, and rich spots. Then I found it to be too complicated for what I wanted, so I just left it on medium and rich. So I just got those two, no poor spots. All right, so type map. This is basically what defines what texture goes into which area of the map, the detailing textures. There are splat maps, there are some stuff that honestly I don't use. I probably should, but I just find them to not be flexible enough. Like you can't rotate the textures, you can just assign them so tiling becomes visible. That's what I don't use them much, but like I said, most people do. So it's probably me doing it wrong. Um, and then you have this guy. I'm not sure if it's required. It's an older version of MapConv NG. This is the main guy able to convert those files. So all in all, what we have to do is rotate those guys. So let's do a very simple pass here and just um, open them in Photoshop. Did you get to install Photoshop?
Yeah, I did.
Cool. I don't
So for
even
right now,
I don't even spend too much time trying to update Photoshop. It didn't change much on the latest years.
I just grabbed the latest thing on a trial and
Yeah.
I'll buy it if I have to. Or when I have to, I should say.
Mm. Yeah, there are other programs which can do this, of course. There's a free one which I really found good. What was
GIMP?
it? No, no, no. GIMP is terrible.
Okay.
Open source community uses it, but it's just painful.
Mm,
Krita. Krita. Krita is great. I think you can do pretty much everything I'm going to show you today using Krita.
okay.
It's this guy here. Krita desktop. It used to be worse than GIMP, and then I think 1 year ago, some heavy investment landed there, and they totally revamped the software 1 year and a half or two ago, and it's impressive. Like the interface is very similar to Photoshop, and just a great piece of software overall. And it's free, so we can't complain much. Um, some stuff I don't know how to do on Krita, like loading DDS files, but yeah, like I said, the interface is very, very good and similar to Photoshop. Some stuff is even more intuitive, like since it's a younger software, the way the interface laid out and all is, I think it's pretty clear. Um, but yeah, some stuff and filter compatibility might not be the greatest. But let me see if Krita has some kind of DDS support. Um, they are supported in Krita at all. Yeah, you can use GIMP just for that apparently.
Oh,
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, they're thinking about developing it as a plugin,
maybe in the future then.
maybe in the future. Okay. Well, or you use Photoshop temporarily. That plugin I linked you to is very good for DDS support. And right now you only need DDS for the minimap, if I recall correctly. So it's not that huge a deal.
Mhm.
Okay, where am I? Back. Oh, yeah, I'm trying to open you. All right, that's the one. So just open all of them.
All right. Watching. Not gonna try to do stuff since I'm
Yeah,
one big monitor.
yeah, just drag them all. If there's nothing open, it's fine. It's not going to try to overlay it on an image. But if you have one image open,
Mm-hmm.
uh, let me answer Miguel. All right, so um, the minimap, we have to rotate them all. So I wasn't sure what direction should I rotate it to. So initially, so what I did was just open the classic Comet Catcher Redux. So I noticed, so yeah, the left side, the two big craters are upwards. So that means I have to rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise. That's what I did pretty much to everything. So here we have a problem is that the metal map um, is flipped.
Mm.
Don't ask me why. Vertically flipped. So I just pretend I didn't know that. So what's up?
Hey there.
Are you
So,
back?
I've been back. I just didn't go word in. Anyway, so hey.
Okay. No, no problem. It's just doing a quick recap for Miguel. So yeah, basically I was explaining him why the dimensions are 2K by 1K instead of, a proper multiple of the full resolution of the map. It's because the compiler rescales it to whatever it needs, and by using an original texture here, which is a multiple of 1K, you have gains in terms of memory usage.
Hmm.
Just the way video cards and memory it's organized. Basically, it only uses multiples of 1024. So he could use more resolution if he wanted, but that would make the zip file bigger. So yeah, this one, for instance, is like, I don't know, less than 20 megabytes. I think Hourglass Unpacked is about 70 megabytes because I use high resolutions here. So yeah, the same for Specular, you know, to use 2K by 1K because the map is horizontal, or else it would be 1K by 2K or a multiple of that. So our goal, um, after editing the textures here, as I did in Photoshop, I just rotated it 90 degrees counterclockwise because the original map's like that.
Mm.
So the goal here is to recompile the map. So I did mention to him that the metal map is flipped vertically.
Hmm.
I don't know why. Some engine crazy definition. But I didn't touch it. I just rotated everything, and I'm going to regenerate the map from this guy, actually the SMF and SMT files. So for that, I use a batch file. Um, where is it? Actually, I'm not using this guy, just this one. So let me edit it. I can show you guys. So there are a number of entries here which are kind of confusing, but basically here I'm defining what's the texture file, what's the height map, the altitude map file, the type map, if any. It does have a type map in this case. The metal map, which defines the resources, the maximum height and the minimum height. So if your map is too steep, so suppose you generate height map or edit it elsewhere, and things are just too steep and vehicles can't go through hills, or you want to add the desert to make it more shallow. What would you do? You just decompile the map, run this batch file, and first you added the minimum height. It's usually a good idea to have this minimum height negative because water in the engine is always at 0. Obviously, this map has no water, obviously, but if you have deformations, I don't know, I think Miguel remembers the original Delta Siege Dry when you had multiple decoy
Mhm.
commanders or even default commanders blowing up in the same position. It would go down and
Mm.
down, and then water would show up, and people would laugh a lot about that. And that's because
When you
the
explode a lot of AFs.
Aphesis as well. Yeah, that's true. The advanced fusion. So those
Mhm.
deform the terrain, and then the more they deform, it actually goes um, down to this minimum. And if it's below 0, it's gonna show the water plate. That's the thing. So that's the maximum height. So the difference of that means the range, the height range is 150 units, which is not a lot. I think Delta C Dry has like 200 something. And these two guys, although they have very weird names, hard to guess, they basically define the quality of the map. So I'm using these values, and it's probably worth it to check this. The the options. There you go. So um, where were those? minus CT and minus TH. So those are the compression types, minus CT and minus TH. So it's got a couple hints down here because they're pretty hard to figure out. So just read this bottom part. It tells you that if you do compression type 1, there's no compression. So usually I use high quality, fast compression, or no compression. If I really want quality, I won't compress it, but that's gonna make the file really big. So yeah, probably 4 for CT is a good bet. That's what I'm using here. And TH, where's TH? TH, the compression level. This one is hard to guess. I just checked on a couple numbers, and the lower it is, the better the quality, of course. So yeah, let's see if there's another TH. Yeah, okay, there's another parameter suggestion here. So higher compressed more artifacts, 0.03, it's actually good. I try 0.01. 0.8 is too much. Probably 0.2 should be enough. And that's it. So you guys should be guessing, hey, why nobody did a front end for that, like a nice GUI graphical user interface? Good question. You can do it. It's open source. If you ask anything to anyone, they say, hey, great idea. You want to do it? So it's like this. Okay, so our batch file is updated. Let's just run it. It's gonna override the SMF and SMT. This doesn't take too long, like about a minute, usually, a bit less, usually. Just runs over the tiles.
Yeah, you can use your own methods to compress the image. Maybe you can
You
achieve
mean
better
the
results.
texture?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Or
I don't know which texture types this support. I know about PNG and TGA. I think I use TGA for Hourglass for better quality, but PNG has its own compression. But the thing is, the more you compress the original texture, the more you fight with the algorithm it uses to generate the titles, the tiles. So maybe it's not a great idea.
is
Does the
that only compatible with PNG, right?
No, there are other file formats.
For example, JPEG.
I think JPEG, PNG, and TGA. I think they are supported. Oh, you can use AGR and EXR for 16-bit height maps. I didn't have any success with that. I tried it. I remember I tried to get better quality height maps. It failed hard, or I didn't figure out how to use it properly. It just didn't work. But yeah, you can use JPEG. I know for sure JPEG, TGA, Targa, and PNG. PNG being the most used overall. So now you got those new guys, as you can see from the time and date. So I can just remove them, put them here, override the original ones. There you go. And our map is updated. If I go back to Spring Lobby, you're seeing the previous image. Sometimes it won't update just because of cache. It's pretty lame. So I tried, see if it does. Good not option, blah, 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 yada, yada. Let's see. Oh, and there's also the thing. Oh, wait, it did. Oh, no, that's the prime version. No, not that one, that one. No, it's not updated here. So sometimes it's just the minimap maps which are used here. You know, if I hit start, it should be right, but I didn't rotate those two guys. I just rotated the files in here. So yeah, I forgot I had to rotate those. Let me do this real quick. just leave the model map because you need it in a second. So open this, and this. You have to watch out to not drop it on here, because if you do, it's just gonna add it as layers to model map. You have to use the dark tab bar at the top. Okay, so just rotate those guys as well and save. Oh, by the way, I'm opening DDS because I'm using a plugin for that. I think you have this one, right, Miguel? The DDS plugin?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, I have.
I sent the link for it to Triumph as well.
Mhm.
So this one. Okay. Counterclockwise, save. And finally, this one. Oh wait, there's still this guy here. All right. So back to Spring Lobby. Come on. Reload maps and games. Yeah, the cached image is still wrong. You can delete the cache folder if you want. Just close this. Go to app data. Spring files. No, Spring Lobby. And then delete the cache folder. Should do. Let's see. Commit catcher. Make 1.8. Okay. So now it's updated. Obviously, the player start positions are not. I'll show how to fix that a bit. But you can see from this crater, it's pretty obvious that the metal map is wrong. These guys should be here and not there. It's just flipped vertically. So we'll have to recompile. Just wanted to show you guys how it happens. But let's play it. Let's play that. So you're gonna see some issues. I heard some error message. What happens? Dependent archive not found. That's new. Let's see what happened. Wait. Map info, map options. Let's see if there's any dependency here. No. Options. Nope. Nothing here. Don't know why it gave us this error. Everything's here. SDD. Let's see if there's any issue with the name. No. Commit catcher remake as this. No. Nope. Let's try it again. Oh wait, I don't have any games selected. That's why. Stupid me. Without a game, it will never run, obviously. I have to clean up the list of my own games. It's taking forever. Yep. It's comida. Okay, this will work now. Okay, so now that we're in the game, if I hit F4, you clearly see how, wait, there's this, não lembro. Vai demorar alguns minutos para fazer o pedido. Deixa eu só sair daqui que eu dou uma pausa. Okay, so you can see how the metal spots are not matching the texture for the metal spots. And we also don't even want this texture here. Oh, look at that. This is definitely not right. So also the tail textures are weird because they were designed for the horizontal map. So you see this crazy thing here going on, you know, the stripes just not right. The rest is basically okay, but yeah, you have like specular spots on these areas which we don't want. Basically, I've removed all of those, and I added my own. Quit here. I think I have to remove quick press. Yeah, because this is just breaking up the zoom and some other stuff. So let me show you how it is now, and then I'll show you how I got there. So here you have to fix the starting positions, but it's got the new metal layout, which I edited on Photoshop, of course. I'll just start here. All right, just do a. So you can see the normal map being properly applied, and the specularity matching the metal regions, and the texture I use for the average and rich spots in place. Compression wasn't perfect when I ran this packing.
We are not seeing the map. We are just seeing the black window.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This. Not.
Oh, the map finally popped up.
What is
Yeah.
that?
Now, I think I was with some lag. I don't know, but I was seeing just the spring loading.
How about
window.
now?
Yeah. Now I'm seeing. All right.
Weird, because you show us muted, but you're talking, so I don't know what's going on.
I unmute when I want to talk.
Ah, okay. I'm seeing your light pinging in and out.
Now.
Yeah. So what I found is that the normal map, and it's funny because IceJig did its own normal map, but it wasn't working. And here you can see the normal map is working, especially on the reflectance part here of the map. Just switch the camera. You can easily see how the lighting is responding to the brightest areas and all. So what I found is that if you use the tail textures, the tail normal texture splats, the NTS, they seem to be overriding the map wide normal, as I call it. Oh, here is a typical compression error. Just the number on that TH entry was too high. So I definitely have to recompress it using a lower value. Probably 0.2, 0.1 should work it out. The rest pretty much okay. Like you can see some normal effects going on, and you know it's okay. Like, and the spots are correct. So what I did was I flipped. I think it's easier to wrap this up to show you the entire thing. I finished it edited today, early in the morning, early hours, like 5 a.m. or so. I have to sleep today. I'm totally fucked. So there's this textural assemble which I left somewhere, and I put it on some GitHub and share with you guys. Basically, with this guy, you can figure the rest on your own. Spring maps, commit catcher, prime source. No, wait. Yeah, those are the resource graphics that I used. I'm basically using the rich and the average, not the poor one. So yeah, this is the big file. So you better have some memory to work with this guy, especially within Photoshop. Not sure about Krita or other guys, but so let me minimize this, move it over. So that's how I organize my layers. So I have the base texture here. I added the original normal guy here. Obviously, I had to duplicate the file and scale it up to match the texture size, which is huge. So here you can see that it's got 6K by 8K. And if you open the normal, it's like 1K by 2K, like I showed you guys. So you have to open each image separately and scale it up to the final image size. Then you Control A, Control C, get back to the texture one and paste it as a layer. And you do that for both the normal dude that you need and for the spot markers, as I call them, or metal spots. It's important to remember so you don't screw up your process because you have to bring them back. So what I do is I set them on linear dodge mode. Let me unlock them here. So I set them to linear dodge. So, and I've changed the rich ones to red. So it's very easy for me to know which ones are the rich, which ones are not. And then I started adding folders to make my job easier. So I have one folder just for the rich spots. There you go. One for the guys. So I started with the bottom, okay, and I reduced the opacity a bit for the fill. It's kind of an opacity thing for the whole layer, so it looks a bit better, not so harsh. So yeah, you can use any of those for the metal spots. So you need the spot markers. I usually have the texture in the back. This way I can see it all. And then I play with those guys like so. For instance, let me, zoom is not good for that. Let me disable one of these guys, this one here, okay? So I basically place it right below the marker for the metal. And when you scale up the metal, there's a small trick which is worth mentioning. Map, commit catcher, prime, source, metal map, this guy. Sometimes it's so hard, you have to point to the label. in the bottom bar, and then you can do this properly. Okay, so since I had to go to 6K, it's 6144 8192. What happened? What happened? Oh, you have to disable this guy, or else it won't work. I've disabled, or actually I've set this due to bcubic, no, nearest neighbor, so it keeps the hard edges, or else it's gonna blur it. And when you bring it back to this low resolution, it creates artifacts on the metal map. You definitely don't want that. So make sure to do like I did. Apparently I did screw up something. I don't know exactly what, but I'll figure out. Oh, this is so slow. My computer's dying trying to scream and do it all. Oh, I use percent. That's a problem. It should be pixels. Nearest neighbor. Okay, now it's perfect. Because when you reduce it back to whatever it was, it's gonna keep as sharp as it is now. And that's what I did. I sent it on top of the main texture so I could replace, delete, and move stuff around. And then I reduced it back to the original side, and I flipped it back on the vertical. It's just the way that the engine works, or the compiler works. So yeah, that's the main trick. So each one of those guys, and they're just textures, normal, no big deal textures. You can move them around. And I like to leave the auto select layer on, so I just click on whatever I want, like this. And then I can rotate it using Control T or whatever I want. What's wrong with my selection? There's something wrong here. Wait, oh, I pointed at the wrong guy. Oh yeah, it's very important to lock the. Now you have to lock the other guys, or else you select the wrong layer. So I just, I unlocked and forgot to lock again.
Control click, I think it's better to select. Yeah, now try to use. No, it's not working.
It selected this one still, so this one was working better yesterday. I don't know. Control click's not enough for that. Sometimes it just screws you up. Let me see what could be the problem here. Oh, I think I know what's it. You have to click elsewhere, and then you can click again. Yeah, that's it. So if you just, let me Control D to deselect. If you just click and drag, it works. But if you have something pre-selected, you have to click Alt and unselect everything, and then you can select whatever you want. So you can do Control T, rotate it. So I tried to add some variety so they're not the same direction. So I just kept rotating them around and making sure they kind of fit the terrain, the geography, or something like that. And so yeah, after I did the bottom part, I just duplicated that. Jesus Christ, it's locking every time. So I just duplicated it. And then I hit Control T. I set the origin to the middle of the map, rough middle. You don't have to be very precise. So I just dragged the lines, for close to the center, and same here, horizontal center. So it would be easier for me to set that. And then I just rotate it all at once, like so, using Shift, so it was a precise angle. And then I started moving those guys and, doing what I had to. That's how I got the top. And the rich one I did separately. So that's going to give you, without the texture map and the spot markers, it's going to give you what you need for to generate the normal. The normal at the end of your job is going to be like so. So you have to generate one normal for the metal itself, and then you have to mix with the original normal. And if you use overlay, you're gonna kill the normal because that's not the right way to do it. So the details are gonna be lost and things are gonna be softer. There are a couple ways to merge normals properly. There are external programs for that, professional programs for that. But the easier way that I find is to use an actual in Photoshop. So let me show you how I got there. First, let me close this down. I just duplicate it. It's a massive image, so it takes some time to duplicate, even on my machine with 64 gigabytes of RAM. So yeah, what I did was I got rid of everything except the actual metal layers. Control E to merge them all, get rid of the rest. You don't need those. I think some of them are locked, so you can't do that without unlocking it. If locks let me. Okay. And you add a white layer. So add a layer, control backspace with white at the bottom. And you don't want the bluish shades. Well, it won't make much of a difference actually. You can turn it into grayscale, then back to RGB if you want. That's what I did, but I don't think it makes any difference. The thing is, with this image, you go to 3D, actual filter, 3D, generate normal map. You can do it directly within Photoshop in the latest versions.
Pretty nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And is it possible to add some OBJs on the map?
You can, using features, just like, thermal vents, they're features. You can add wreckages, destroyed ships, and buildings, whatever you want.
Because I want to make a city map, with some streets, a destroyed city. Or,
that could be cool. Yeah. Tá acabando. 5 minutes. Tá bom. We're talking about the dinner. Okay, so once I get here, I like to use the cube settings just because it's a bit easier to figure out if the direction of the normal is correct or not. By experience, I know it's it's flipped upside down. The height is inverted. I'm sure Miguel can read that as well, but since Stuart's not, so comfortable with, is not used to normal maps yet, it's probably good for him to do something like this. It's kind of hard to navigate this thing. I usually use this kind, and there are some shortcuts which I never remember. So, yeah, but you can get close to one of those guys and see if it's correct or not. If you click on invert height, it's going to evaluate things differently, and then you can see that it's better. And same here. Okay, so you can add more detail, which makes it more noisy. I've played with those settings yesterday. Honestly, don't touch them. It won't do any good. Like what it does, it adds more flatness to a certain range of the height scale. Oh, and one thing, if your image is on grayscale, make sure to convert it to RGB image mode, RGB, or else the filter is going to show disabled. It took me some time to understand what was going on because it has to generate red, green, and blue channels for a proper normal map. Okay, so I just accepted, and there I have a new normal map just for the metal spots. So add a layer, Control V. This is the guy that I created before. So what I have to do now, actually, I think I shouldn't have reverted them. It seems I screwed them up. Yeah, it shouldn't be flipped. This is the right version. I shouldn't flip it, but it doesn't matter. I just show how to merge it. So to merge them, I use an actual action, because like I said, if you do set this to overlay, if you just look at this part, it's very clear that when you disable the top one, it changes the hue, which means it's less intense using overlay. So just don't use overlay. It's a poor approach. The right way is to keep the top guy selected, and then you go to Window Actions. And I have the normal map combining actions here. I can send you guys this package later. It's easy to install in Photoshop. Just drag to the right folder. I did that like 1 year ago, so I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's easy. I got the link here. So I just send you guys the link for that. Yeah. This is the guy. Combine normal map script for Photoshop. It does everything that this video describes, but does it by itself. So I send to you both. Okay, so you just select the top layer and you go to this UDN blending mode is better. Whiteout blending, honestly, I don't like it. I don't even know why they added it. Apparently, from description, in some circumstances, would be a good idea. So just select the UDN blending mode and hit play. It's gonna issue some errors because the last step is the normalize normal map filter. I never installed it. I don't think it's a requirement. It just prevents a couple aberrations if your normal maps are too intense, but usually for maps it's not the case. So I just ignore that, just hit continue. It's gonna give another error saying that lead's not available, no problem. It's just a bit deprecated. Okay. And there you go. You got a combined normal map using the two guys below, which is exactly how I created this guy. The only difference that I shouldn't have reverted the height on that step. So with that, all you have to do is duplicate, rescale the image to the right image size. I think it's 1K by 2K. Save them for the normal. Resave the texture, save the model map, and run the exporter again. It's basically what I did to get to this point. The last thing I want to show you guys is a couple settings I had to do on how to change the name of the map, which is right here, and map info. So what I did was I commented out the splat section. To comment out in Lua, just add two hyphens, how do you pronounce that? Triumph? Hyphen? Okay. No, that's an underscore. You need to hyphen.
All right.
To hyphens. Hífen. In Portuguese is hífen. So I just used those two images here. I didn't use the other. So I commented all the splat details ones, which were running out the specular. I also recommend using this specific lighting section or something similar because the original values were too soft for you to notice the normal map, just the way the rendering works in the engine. I can send you guys this map info for reference later. You do have to add this guy if you change the map name, which you probably want because it's a new version. So if you change the SMT, you have to change this here and this here. So SMF goes here, SMT goes here. These two numbers should be the same as you used it in the compiler, but if it's not, it's just gonna stretch up and down the map. So you can play with those even without recompiling the map, which is pretty cool. I did that sometimes in Hourglass to test the slope of the ramps, as I've discussed with Triumph many times. This max metal here is what defines how much metal you earn from the widest tone in the metal map. Extractor radius is basically how far you can be and still acquire metal from that pixel in the metal map. Gravity is very important. So this is a low gravity map. Usually you have like 120 or more. It's a low gravity because it's on the moon. How easy the map deforms when a big explosion happens goes here. Don't touch this guy. So you got things like the sky color, the sun color. You can play with that at your heart's as much as your heart wants. The minimum wind, maximum wind is one I set it really low, but you know, when you see like, oh, the wind goes from 9 to 20, those are the guys that define it. 9 would go here, 20 would go here. Fog, if any. Water settings. Oh, and these are the teams which I didn't fix for mine yet. So how do you?
The wind?
No. Just check the sections. Atmosphere. You see that? I really recommend using Notepad++ to play with Lewis because it automatically detects it, allows you to collapse sections, and it's much easier to work with if you're on Windows. So
for the wind, if I put both values as the same thing, will it stay a constant or will that just break?
It will stay constant. Exactly.
Oh, good.
So if you put 14, 14, it's just 14 the whole time. So yeah, lighting. Oh yeah, and teams. How many teams the map support? Right now it supports 8 teams, so 0, 1, 2, 3. Those positions. How do you get those positions? Stupidest answer possible. Get in game. Point to something. It does give you some relative positions here, but you can probably see that those numbers are pretty huge. Okay, so it's just what you do. You just point and read and write it down, or you have there's a widget I can send you guys later, which you can add to your widget folder. Just a second. Weather is dry like crazy today here. So there's a widget which you can just point to what you want to be a starting position, hit D or Q or whatever, and then it prints out the coordinates. So just come in here and enter those settings. It's just like that. I'll just do it manually like I showed you. It's very ugly overall. That's it, everything you need to know to build well, almost. There's one last thing. Just want to mention the features file. Features, there's no features here. Let me show you in Hourglass. Where's that thing? Maps. I think I just left it on maps. Maps. Where is maps? Here. Here, features.txt. So this is where you define thermal vents or geothermal vents, and you just add the coordinates here. This is the height. This is the X, the Y, and the Z. So I just add X here and Z here as you point. It's shown here, the X and Z. And that's it. The team that owns it must be 0. It's neutral, so just do it like this. And this one will be used in the compiling definitions. So you just put it next to the other files that you're going to compile and the batch file. I think that's the one I use for it. And okay, here you go. Minus features.txt. Okay. Well, that's it. The rest is basic experimentation and trying to fix bugs and try it. Do you have any questions immediately?
Nothing immediately. I'm gonna have to watch the video again and, go over it a couple times to try to get everything and start toying with, stuff.
Cool. Yeah, pick one map that you'd like to fine tune something like, oh, I want it to be not so steep or maybe less metal spots, whatever. And then ask me how you did this or that. And then I'll answer you. It's probably more effective.
You are recording, right?
Yeah, I stopped recording now.
Perfect.
So it's gonna process the video. How do I do that shit? Okay.